Chapter 2. The NWRF. The NWRF, spearheaded by a man named Edgar Whyms, is a grave threat to humanity. Fashioned after the most evil, incorrigible criminal leaders who have ever lived, their inspiration comes from historical figures such as Nero, Genghis Khan, Vlad Tepes, Adolf Hitler, H. Holmes, and Idi Amin, to name a few. However, there have always been those who work against the corrupt faction. Fate's dealt an even hand of just to unjust Remmies. For every malevolent wretch, there has always been an equal portion of honourable. People like the Dalai Lama, Moses, Harriet Tubman, Joan of Arc, JFK. Hold on. Moses was a Remy. Come on, Phoenix exclaims with a raised brow. On me, Mars' eyes, I wouldn't lie to you, Fee, Grey says with a swear, hand over his heart. Then continues. The historic battles between Remmies can be traced back to the days of the pharaohs. Today the war still rages, but with exceptionally more dangerous Remmies at the helm. A huge problem is that the NWRF has grown exponentially over the last 10 years. Phoenix hangs on his every word. Now the story behind how the NWRF came to be is Edgar, unaware of his abilities, stumbled upon something strange one day. It's said that in July of 1992, he began dreaming of a bank robbery. At first he didn't pay much attention because he'd always had recurring dreams. But this one was so real. But he would never consider robbing a bank, because he's a good citizen, pays his taxes, recycles, and gives to charity, right? Well, one day, while cleaning his garage, he found 2 duffel bags in the corner. Inside the bags are thousands of dollars. He didn't understand it. They were just dreams. He couldn't have actually robbed a bank. Panicked, he searched through old newspapers, and there it was. The Warren National Bank had been robbed, dating back to the very time he started having the dream. But how, he asked himself. If he were involved, why hadn't he been arrested? He needed to find out. Not sure where to find the answers, he didn't try to return the money because no one would believe he didn't do it, and turning it over meant he was going to jail. Deciding he needed to tell someone, he told his brother, Officer David Whyms. He trusted his brother. Right or wrong, he would never give him up. That night, Edgar shared his tale of crime, fortune, and dismay with David, who said he would review the evidence from the bank to make sure there was no connection to him. What Edgar didn't know was that his brother was in debt and in over his head with the wrong people. After investigating the case with a few detective friends, David found no evidence of Edgar's involvement. No prints, no pictures, nothing that would ever incriminate his brother as a suspect. He knew they would never find out about Edgar, but he needed the money. So instead of reassuring his brother, he worked an already scared Edgar into a frenzy with stories of possible connections and leads. David bilked Edgar for all but a few $1,000s, telling him he had to pay off other officers to destroy the evidence. A few months later, an update about the crime revealed that police never had any clues about the robbery. Their exact words were, "Missing money, Warren's biggest mystery." Edgar saw red and vowed to make David pay for what he had done. He knew he was wrong, but the way he saw it, his brother was the worst kind of criminal. David blatantly broke the law and their bond as brothers. Wondering who else might have his peculiar ability, he began placing small ads in newspapers around the country about strange sleep patterns and recurring dreams. As people answered the ads, he met with them, and soon they began to work together as a group, planning and carrying out the perfect crimes. David got wind of some new and unusual robberies with no clues, and instantly thought of Edgar. He approached Edgar to see if he'd been involved, and Edgar admitted it. He told David he didn't need his help. David, angered, threatened to expose Edgar and later found himself dangling headfirst from the top of a parking garage construction site. To date, everyone calls the place David's. It's a running joke. Word is he's still there, if you know what I mean, says Gray. Hess cocks his head to the side, pondering for a moment, then mutters, I wonder if his spirit admires the cars, like the really nice ones. Collectively, they look at him. You didn't mean to say that out loud, did you? Asks Gray. Let's try to ignore the sudden dip on the intelligence meter and move on, shall we? TK adds. So, is anything coming back to you? Luke asks Phoenix. Unfortunately not. To be honest, all of it sounds rather cuckoo. You guys are telling me stories about sleepwalking. Gray interrupts. Not sleepwalking. Walking while you're asleep. Whatever! You're sticking me with needles. I supposedly have ESP. I narrowly escaped death tonight. I don't remember any of you, and I want to go home. So forgive me if I don't recall your fantastic tale, but apparently I'm having an off night. Phoenix rants in frustration. It's okay, I wasn't trying to upset you, says Luke. It's just aggravating. All I have are few fragmented images, and so gut instincts to guide me. Hess chimes in. We could all use some rest right now. Yeah, I'll tell you more about Edgar Whyms, the gobshite behind the name tomorrow, adds Gray. Can't wait. Phoenix replies sarcastically. Hess checks the security monitors and activates motion detectors around the perimeter. Phoenix looks around the room. Do you all live here or something? No, we come here toward the end of the cycle. We have accommodation set up in the back, Luke answers. After taking a deep breath, she says, We should talk. Luke takes her hand and leads her to their quarters. Once in the room, they stand in silence, staring at one another. Phoenix trying to piece together the fractured memories that go with her imprecise feelings. While Luke, glad to have her with him again, wants her to remember their extraordinary bond. Face to face, something keen transpires, and instinctively she kisses him. Just then, another sensation overcomes her. But before she can speak, Hess runs to the doorway saying, We've got company. Luke looks at Phoenix saying, Stay here, while he and Hess sprint to the main car. Staying behind not being in her nature. She follows them. Gray and Luke stand by the door with their guns drawn, as Hess surveys the monitor searching for would-be intruders. Phoenix steps quietly in the room behind TK. I hope you still remember how to use this, says TK as she gives Phoenix a gun while gearing up. It's not rocket science, aim and shoot, she replies. Luke glances at her and then refocuses his attention on the door. Phoenix clings to the wall, unsure of the feeling rinsing over her. They're gone, shouts Hess. They must have just been passing by, looking for signs of activity. They never even showed up on the camera. Luke and Gray move away from the door. There's tremendous tension in the air. Everyone is on edge. Luke walks out, heading toward the dorm. Gray sighs. Well, I have to find my appetite again. Anybody want to help me? Sorry, says Phoenix, leaving the room. The others move toward the kitchen. Before Phoenix is out of sight, TK exclaims, Stay sharp! Phoenix throws up her hand in a gotcha-type gesture and keeps walking. When enters the room, she doesn't see Luke, but hears the shower running in the bathroom. She taps lightly on the door, but doesn't get a response, so she steps inside. The room is filled with steam. She sees him through the shower curtain, his head leaning against the wall, letting the hot water run through his hair and down his back. Clearly, in deep thought, he doesn't sense her behind him. She watches silently, staring at him through the steam when an alarm begins to blare. Taken aback by the sound, He turns and is startled by her presence. The lights shut off, all but a red flashing light in the corridor. He clothes hurriedly and they make their way to the main car. When they arrive, TK is crouched beside the entrance, motioning for them to come quietly and quickly. Gray is on the opposite side of the door with his back to the wall. Luke moves closer to TK with Phoenix right behind. Her eyes search the room for Hess. She spots him diagonally across from Gray at the room's far end. The car is secured. "They're not Remmies," Hess whispers, clutching his gun. "Freaking Joes," he mutters. "Love of Pete," exclaims Gray. "All right, time to lay waste." Luke turns to Phoenix. "Stay behind me." She draws the gun given to her by TK earlier. Gray, by the door waiting in anticipation, mumbling under his breath. "Come on, make your move." A long, slow creaking sound comes from the door. Just then, an explosion tears a large hole into the side of the freight car. Hess is barely missed by the blast. Debris flies through the air, landing everywhere. Shots are fired in every direction. It's a full-on assault, and they're only 5 strong. "Find cover!" shouts TK Luke, and Hess flip a large filing cabinet onto the floor and duck behind it. TK returns fire while diving for safety. Phoenix defends Gray with a constant line of cover, so he can safely make his way across the room as more Joes enter through the hole in the side of the freight car. A notion sweeps over them all at once. Remmies are waiting in the distance to finish them off. The feeling in the room turns grim. No one's taken a hit yet, but it's only a matter of time. "Get them out!" Luke yells to Gray, referring to Hess and Phoenix. "Take them through the tunnel below the last car. And leave you here to die." "Not today, pal," Hess shouts. Phoenix also refuses to leave. "This is not up for debate, go!" Luke exclaims in an urgent tone, looking at her with a pleading expression. She lays down more fire. "Remmies are coming!" shouts Hess. "Go! Go!" Luke bellows urgently. Gray grabs Phoenix's hand and pulls her onward down the tunnel. Moments later, she stops, exclaiming, "You can't leave them alone against that onslaught." "I got her, we'll be okay. Meet us at the rendezvous," Hess says, convincing Gray to go back. Hesitantly, he turns back, knowing that Luke and TK won't make it without him. The two push on, encountering no resistance as they make their way through the tunnel. At the freighter, Luke and TK hold off Joes, but Remmies are approaching. As Gray gets closer, he hears more rapid firing than before. He fears the worst and takes off running as fast as he can towards it. As Hess and Phoenix continue to the rendezvous, they wonder if the others made it out alive. Would she know if anything happened to Luke? She could only rely on her feelings. But how when she couldn't remember their relationship? Only time would tell. Gray reaches the trapdoor beneath the last car that will throw him back into the chaos. As he gets closer, they hear someone coming up from behind. "Here I come, you slack-jawed maggots, and I'm gonna rip your bollocks off," he shouts as he charges in. TK and Luke turn to one another and exclaim simultaneously, "Gray!" Their sense of hope is renewed as Gray runs up the corridor and slides in on one leg, eliminating targets all the way to safety. Luke fires more shots and ducks back behind the filing cabinet. "What happened? Where is she?" he asks. "She begged me to come back and help you guys. It was the right decision," he replies. TK shouts loudly over the noise while reloading. "They're coming, and there's too many of them." They try to hold off the current round of miscreants with continuous fire. TK pauses. She hears motion coming from behind their position. "Oh God," she says, looking at them in despair. They've found the way in. If this is it, I'm going out with a bang, and I'm taking as many of those bastards as possible with me, Gray announces as he holds out his hand, revealing a grenade, the one last trick up his sleeve. He sticks his hand out, saying, "Who's with me?" TK and Luke place their hands on top of his and look at each other one last time. The footsteps get closer. They know there's no way they can handle the load that's coming their way. When they believe the enemy is close enough, Gray pulls the pin from the grenade. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out, "TK!" In a split second, she grabs the grenade and hurls it out of the side of the freight car. 1,000,000 to 1 shot. "TK!" the voice calls out again. The grenade goes off, shaking them about like rag dolls. Seconds later, John Maxson, a tall, dangerously effective, dedicated military man, and his team of Remmies step from the smoky darkness. They pick up the battle where they stand, though the grenade didn't leave much. A lifesaver for the three. Gray, TK, and Luke, in disbelief, realize how close they came to certain death and wonder how John could have known they were in trouble. With the area secured and John's guards posted, Luke frantically prepares to meet Phoenix. "Luke, calm down. Where are you going?" John asks. "After Phoenix, I have to know she's all right." "Luke, she's fine. She's safe." "I don't know that for sure, and I can't take that chance," he says. John puts his hands in front of him to block his path. "Luke, how do you think I knew to come here tonight? We're a little late because of some unexpected visitors of our own, but thank God we got here when we did. You guys were about to light up the night sky and yourselves with some serious fireworks." Luke ignores John, determined to reach Phoenix. He asks again, "Where is she?" "She's at the rendezvous with Hess. I already have people there, but if you want, we can go right now." "Yes, I want," he says, staring at John earnestly. John calls to TK and Gray, "Hold down the fort. I'm taking Luke to the rendezvous. I'll be back." "K," Gray replies, as they depart from the newly installed exit on the side of the freight car. At the rendezvous, Hess and Phoenix are among their fellow Remmies, and more than relieved to see them. Travelling down the road, Luke side-eyes John while fastening his restraint, but remains focused, despite John's reckless driving. "Don't worry, Luke, she's all right. They both are. I gotta tell you, that girl's a piece of work. She's real special. More so than the rest of us," John says loudly over the windy noise while barreling aggressively down the road. Luke doesn't respond. He stares out the window, engrossed in deep thought, never hearing a word. While salvaging what can be transported to the rendezvous, Gray sighs, looking around the room. "Not much left of this place," he says as he drops a burned-up printer to the floor. "We really almost bit the bullet tonight, yeah. When I had that grenade, I was choked up." He pauses. "I was scared, but only at that exact moment. I wasn't afraid before, not like that." TK sets some boxes on the floor and walks over to him. "We were all afraid. It's natural to feel fear. We need it. It motivates us to do things we thought we never could, not in 1,000,000 years, even for a cause." She pats him on the back and gives his arm a squeeze. "You did well, Gray. Come on, let's get out of here." They pack up and head out to the truck. Luke and John arrive at the hotel. Before the vehicle comes to a stop, Luke jumps out and runs through the rendezvous doors. "Where is she?" he asks the first person he sees. Not waiting for the answer, he continues looking into each room as he passes. Hess spots Luke at the end of the hall and calls to him. Hurrying down the hallway, his eyes search for Phoenix. He approaches Hess. "Where's Fee?" Hess grabs his hand, giving it a firm shake, saying, Man, it's good to see you. She's down here, come on. They rush to the room at the end of the hall. Luke opens the door. Fee! He calls out. There's no response. He rushes into the room. Hess, puzzled, moves on to the adjoining room and calls out to her. Not finding her, they meet in the hallway. Well, where is she? Exclaims Luke. She was just in here, Hess says, pointing to the first room. It's okay. She's around here somewhere. We'll find her. When? Luke asks, clearly upset. Hess pauses, then slowly backs down the hallway, mumbling, No, 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 it can't. What? Asks Luke. Hess turns and runs down the hallway toward the exit. Luke follows, reloading his gun along the way. Outside, he relays to John that Phoenix is missing. Gray and TK arrive. Luke yanks open their Hummer door, hurrying Gray from behind the wheel. He jumps in, and Hess hops in the passenger seat. What's going on? Gray asks urgently. Fee is missing! Hess shouts as Luke starts the vehicle and speeds away before he can say anything else. God, how did this happen? John asks, I promised that kid she was all right. Do we know for sure she's not here? Did anybody actually search for her? Asks TK. If she were here, we wouldn't have to, he replies. Well, let's not stand around, we have to back up Luke. He must have some idea where to look for her. With Hess, they'll be able to find her, adds Gray. John instructs TK. Stay with the team, hold down the fort, we'll be back. Then walks to the driver's side of his vehicle. Gray jogs over and grabs the handle. I'll drive John, you be the lookout, he says, donning a silly grin. With a quirked brow, John moves to the passenger seat. Okay, he says curiously, followed by, take us back to the yard. Got it, Gray replies. Upon arrival, they're greeted by Ellis, a man not overtly menacing in stature, yet a formidable opponent in combat, and John's closest, most trusted friend. John, good to see you, buddy, and not a moment too soon. It's bad, El. They got Fee. Luke and Hess took off to find her. How did that happen? Ellis asks. All we know is that she went missing, and now we have to locate them and Fee. John replies. As long as he has one of our vehicles, we can track them. I installed low-jacking a month ago. Great, John replies. Okay, gear up, people. Let's ride, Ellis says as he raps his fist on the truck's hood. 20 in number, they ride off into the night. Still in their pursuit of Phoenix, Luke drives aimlessly while Hess hopes to sense some inkling of Phoenix. Are you getting anything? Asks Luke. I don't know, maybe, but it's weak, Hess replies. Impatient, Luke jams his foot on the gas, charging down the road at an incredible rate of speed. Knowing there's not much time, Hess draws on all of his ability to locate her. Down here, he shouts, pointing in a direction but with uncertainty. We're going in circles, Luke yells. No, we're not. Go straight up ahead, Hess says, giving Luke more specific details as he feels them. Luke, with his eyes on the road but his mind elsewhere, doesn't see the Hummer containing John and Gray approaching from the right. Watch out! Hess shouts. But it's too late. The vehicles collide. The convoy swerves to avoid the accident ahead. They stop and rush over to check on their friends. John climbs from the window of his banged-up automobile. Both drivers are stunned but unharmed. Hess walks around the truck to assess the damage. Gray climbs from the driver's side window and pans around the street. Damn! Is it just me? Or is this the second time tonight we've almost been annihilated? He exclaims as he holds his left side in pain. Don't count, John says sternly, then calls out, Luke! What the heck are you doing? Luke sits behind the wheel in deep thought, unresponsive to John's question. His eyes closed. Murmuring in an undertone. Come on, where are you? I know you can hear me. Tell me where you are. He keeps repeating while rocking gently back and forth. His hands wrapped around the steering wheel, his eyes clenched tightly. Everyone watching silently, not sure of what to do. John breaks the moment saying, "We don't have time for this, Luke. Fee is still out there. We can find her, but we have to keep moving. The police are coming. We gotta go." Luke, still in a trance-like state, doesn't respond. "Luke, snap out of it!" he yells in frustration. With no sign of acknowledgement from Luke, John throws his hand in the air, motioning to the others to get ready to ride. Luke's head lifts slowly and he quietly mumbles, "I know where she is. I know where she is." He repeats louder. John walks back saying, "Luke, you can't possibly know that." "I know, and I'm going," he replies as he tries to get the vehicle in gear. Hess hops back in and the truck finally starts. Luke drives away armed with a clear destination in mind. "Come on, let's go!" shouts Gray. John shakes his head and makes a command gesture to Ellis. With sirens approaching in the distance, all vehicles flee the scene. "Where are we going, Luke?" Hess asks. "I can feel her. She's near," Luke says. Come on, show me," he whispers under his breath. Wait, slow down," Hess points. "Over there." Luke stops and turns off the headlights. The convoy approaches, slowing down, waiting a few feet away. Hess leans toward Luke, saying, "That's the building." "I know," he responds. Hess is perplexed by Luke's knowledge, but doesn't have time to question it. They exit the truck, crouch down and run toward John's vehicle. "This it?" Gray whispers as he hops out checking his ammo. "She's in there. I have to get her out," Luke exclaims while tucking a gun in the waistband of his pants. We are going to get her out. That means all of us," John says. "As a matter of fact, and I can't believe I didn't see it. There's probably only one reason she's not dead yet. They want something else, and I think I know what that is." He adds, looking at Hess. The others turn to Hess as well. "What?" he says, pausing a moment before grasping John's implication. "Well, it's too late now, I'm not going back," he declares, inserting a clip into his gun. Primed, Ellis asks, "We ready to move?" "We are. I need you to put some guys on the roof across the street and find a way in through the back. We'll take the side, and Hess, you stay close to someone at all times. We can't afford to lose you too." John replies. Gray pairs with Hess, Luke with John, Ellis and his group depart. Strapped to a chair inside a small storage room, Phoenix struggles to free herself from the tightly tied ropes that cut into her skin. Feeling Luke's presence, she knows he's come for her. With the building under heavy surveillance, her friends will certainly die if they act without warning. She needs to get their attention, quickly, if she can just reach the tiny window across the room. She clears her throat and spits on her wrists, lubricating them enough to slip the ropes over her hands. Pulling the blood-soaked twine from her ankles, she hurries to the window. She tries to open it, but it's painted shut. She looks around the room for something that will give her leverage without making noise, but there's nothing. She spots a rag on the floor, wraps it around her hand, and crashes it through the window. The sound of breaking glass alerts everyone outside and inside, but it gives her friends a fighting chance. Immediately, gunfire erupts from the floors below, and fast, heavy footsteps approach. She hunches down behind the door, waiting for it to open. Her pulse races, and her heart beats rapidly as if it were trying to jump from her chest. Waiting to pounce on whoever enters, she notices beads of light burst into the room through the floor. The shots intensify. Afraid of being hit, she scrunches closer to the wall. The knob turns, and a large burly man sticks his head in the room. She lunges upward, slamming his head with the door. He stumbles forward in pain. She kicks the gun from his hand and shoves him into the wall face first. Wrapping her arm around his neck from behind, she tries to strangle him. He swings his shoulders side to side, attempting to shake her off. She wraps her legs around his torso while trying to grip his throat. He grabs her arm and pulls until she's forced to let go, then throws her to the floor. She tries to get up but can't as he hovers over her, throwing punches to her body, each landing like a brick. She reaches for the gun on the floor just inches away. He grabs her pant leg, dragging her back, momentarily revealing a vulnerability. She exploits it, and with a kick, his onslaught of blows come to an end, and he falls backward onto the floor. Tuckered and pained, she scrambles for the gun. He grips the hemline of her pant leg and pulls her back to the floor. The weapon slips from her hand, and they race toward it. Faster, he retrieves it first and turns over to shoot when 8 light beads tear through his body, leaving him lying on his back. The gun drops from his hand. Cautiously, she picks it up and heads for the door. "Someone is coming." "Fee, call out," a voice says from the hallway. "Gray!" "God, I'm glad to see you." "Are you all right?" he asks. "Let's just say I'm still here," she replies. "Where'd you get that gun?" he asks. She points to the body on the floor. "You? Dispatched him?" "Nice one. Actually, it was shoddy construction, but I'll claim it," she replies. He laughs as he takes a closer look at the body, and then cautiously they make their way through the corridor. "We have to find Hess. We got separated a few floors down," he says. "We will." She replies and asks, "Is Luke all right?" He assures her that when he last saw Luke, he was in perfect health. They reach the staircase, but it's occupied by Joes, more than they can handle, leaving them to find another way out. They back-to-back their way through the hall, when Gray is spotted by a Remy. It's shots fired on sight, and a back and forth ensues. Gray gets the better of the offender, but the noise alerts the others to their position. "We need support! Now!" he shouts. Phoenix eliminates several Joes that are moving in. Ammunition is low, and there's no room they can retreat to. "We have to take the stairs," she says. "Okay, go." He replies, and they make a break for the exit at the opposite end of the hall. As they approach, an explosion below rips through the stairwell, leaving the door hanging from its hinges, and thick smoke fills the air. The staircase, decimated in the blast, is their only way out. They attempt to climb down through the smoke and twisted metal. The railings are hot, and the concrete crumbles beneath their feet. The firefight rages in the distance as they carefully navigate the wreckage. "What in Mary's womb did this?" asks Gray. "I don't know, I'm just glad we weren't here when it went off," she replies. "You can repeat that forever," he says. Just then his foot slips. Phoenix grabs his hand but loses her balance, and they fall onto the platform below. She lands on top of him. He's lying on the edge of a step, barely missing a foot-long shard of metal. "Ah! Something's broke!" he cries. She quickly rolls off of him. "I think it's me rib." "Let me see," she says. No, I'm good." "Let me take a look," she insists, lifting his shirt and touching his side. He winces in pain. I'm sorry, she says. "Me bling leg is killing me too," he says, while trying to stand up. "Let me get you out of here," she says, slinging his arm over her shoulder, holding him up as they try to make their way through the debris. Clenching his teeth, Gray stifles his pain as they climb down to the next landing. Curiously, there's no sign of movement in the corridor below, and they go for it. The silence. However, proves a false sense of security as Joes are waiting just around the corner, but caught off guard, their adversaries hesitate to shoot, giving them the upper hand. Phoenix fires off the first rounds, and they take cover behind a door that's been relocated by the blast. Down to the last of their ammunition, she calls out to Luke. "Luke, if you really can hear me, I need you," she... "Fee! Gray!" A voice calls out from somewhere in the smoky corridor.
"Oh, A++, mate! We're over here!" shouts Gray. "Cover me!" Hess yells.
Gray, slumped over on his side, dumps his last ammo, shooting blindly in the direction of their rivals.
"I'm spent!"
he declares.
"Me too!"
she responds. Moments later, Hess pops his head over the top of the door, suddenly finding Gray's gun pressed under his chin. Upon realizing it's Hess, he lowers it with a sigh of relief. Hess, shaken, opens his eyes and asks, "Did you miss me?" before swallowing deeply. "Like mad, and it's empty," Gray replies. "I'm not Luke, but I'm here," Hess says, before giving them clips to reload. "I can't make it, mate. You'll have to leave me here," says Gray. "Why would we do that?" asks Hess. He points to his leg, which is bent in an unnatural direction. "I can hold them back from here and wait for the cavalry." "Yeah, right," Phoenix blats, not partial to the idea. "Fee, I'm a liability. Listen, leave me. I'll stay and delete a few of these scanger-faced bum-rats before they get to you. Just don't forget about me," he says. An unappealing suggestion, but at the moment there isn't a better one at the ready. Hess extends his hand to Gray. He clasps it. "Keep your head down. We'll be back," he says reassuringly. Reluctantly, they depart. Now, nearly daybreak, they exit the building in search of the others. It's desolate. "This doesn't feel right," he says. They survey the area. It's eerily quiet, until without warning a vehicle located some feet away explodes. The force of the blast throws them backward to the ground. Stunned, the wind knocked from their bodies, and ears ringing, they scurry to take refuge against the building. The chassis burns, and black soot fills the air. What happened?" she asks loudly, above the reverberation in her ears. With less than a minute's delay, another vehicle blows to bits. Inside! Yells Hess, and they run through the doors back to safety. The entrance is dark, and the air is filled with toxic fumes. "Hess! Fee, is that you?" a voice calls out. It's John. He's holed up in the corridor crosswise to their position, the smog making him barely visible. "John!" exclaims Hess, relieved to hear his voice. "Where is everybody?" he asks. "Around. Where's Gray?" John replies. "Injured, but holding on. We have to go back for him." "Where's Luke?" asks Phoenix. "I don't know. He was with me and then he took off," he says. Her heart sinks into her stomach. "It's my fault. I have to find him," she yells. "Fee, you don't even know where he is," John says, while taking shots at two Joes approaching from behind. "I can find him," she declares. "Think about it, Fee. Is that what Luke would want?" he asks. The building rumbles, shaking deeply from the foundation. "We'll get him, Fee. I promise," John continues. Outside, another truck goes up in flames. "Son of a! Sounds like our last ride!" He shouts, "So we're screwed on transport!" Phoenix guffs out through the back end of a dry cough. "Temporarily. But we're getting out of here, every last one of us," says John as he radios Ellis, who, with his team, is under heavy fire. "Come in, Elle, are you there? Elle? Go, John. I'm here," he replies. "Relief is on the way. Just hang on," he says. Several floors above, Gray continues to encounter resistance. As he reloads his weapon, he mutters, "Flippin' the piss! This is out of hand. and props himself up to fire off a few more rounds when the entire building shakes. The front door has been blown away, and a portion of the building with it. Fee, Hess, we gotta get out of here, guys. Another blast will take this building and us with it, shouts John. Hess takes note of the deterioration of the room, then turns to Phoenix. I'm going for Gray. Watch my back. Wait, I'll go with you. How are we going to bring him down? She asks. Just beyond the corridor, an elevator dings and the doors begin to stutter open. Emerging through the smoke is Luke, pushing Gray on a mangled office chair. Luke! You wonderful bastard! Let's go! John calls. Phoenix peeks out from her position. She can breathe again knowing they're all right. He's relieved to see her too and exclaims, I found a way out! They follow closely behind. Upon exiting, all opposition is suspiciously non-existent. Yeah, so this doesn't feel right at all. But let's roll, John whispers. They make their move and head towards Ellis and his team, when a flurry of bullets miss them by mere inches. They scatter, taking refuge where they can find it. Phoenix slides behind a car. Numerous slugs punch through the exterior, barely missing her. This is the worst night of my life, she screams. They're pinned down with nowhere to go. L, do you read me? John repeats over his radio. Static is the only reply. A barrage of bullets riddle the shielding. Their outlook is bleak. This heap of scrap is Swiss, mate, says Gray, tucking himself closer to the front grille. It won't take much more, Luke replies. A noise grows in the distance, drawing closer by the second, the distinct sound of roaring engines. Get ready, John. Ellis chimes over the radio. Luke grabs a broken side mirror from the ground and looks behind them. The Gatlin truck is charging up the road. It's TK, he says. And not a minute too soon, John shouts enthusiastically and calls over the walkie. Get us out of here, Teresa! The vehicle arrives screeching to a stop, and she opened fires on their foemen, neutralizing the threat. Edgar's brigade retreats, leaving Phoenix and the others a route to escape. October 29th, 5:30 a.m. Despite fighting side by side during a long and violent night, Phoenix's memories of her friends are still non-existent. However, they have proven to be strong, loyal, trustworthy allies. Her relationship with Luke is now something she cherishes, and finds the thought of losing him again insufferable. When they return to the rendezvous, Gray is carried inside on the makeshift stretcher. Several hours after much-needed rest and medical attention, they gather in the lobby. TK turns on the television. Hey guys, look at this, she says, raising the volume. Authorities don't know exactly what happened here, but what they do know is that someone waged an all-out war in 2 areas of the city from early evening into the wee hours of the morning. Turn it off, says John, with disgust in his voice. Listen, we can't let this happen again. Number 1, innocent people could get hurt. Number 2, we get caught. Number 3, we'll probably be killed, and not necessarily in that order, he adds. Hess interjects, saying, It's a given they're going to come after us again, so how are we... John interrupts, replying, We go after those bastards first, hit them with everything we got. I agree, TK adds. Gray, patched up, medicated, and feeling exceptionally well, tosses in a question. Hey John, how do you know we were in the Straits? None of us had time to contact you. 1 minute we're getting hammered, and the next you were pulling our arses from the fire. Thanks for that, by the way. He chimes from his wheelchair with a smile. Don't thank me, he says. It was Fee that told me about the attack. What are you talking about? She asks. Thursday night you came to my house, around 2 o'clock, all by your lonesome, in the rain, and told me Edgar and his crew were on the move. I don't know how you knew. You never said, but I believed you. I don't remember that. She says, "How did she get home?" asks Luke. I can't tell you. I went to get some dry clothes for you, Fee, and when I came back you were gone. So you just let her go? Luke asks in a disapproving tone. No, Luke, I assumed she drove away. John replies. If her clothes were wet, why would she have driven away? Where were you, Luke? You were supposed to be watching her. I was with her every day. Well, she got past you, buddy, John quips. Am I not sitting right here? Phoenix shouts. Look, let's not fight, okay? Fee is safe. Our focus right now should be figuring out exactly what happened the other night, not pointing fingers at each other, says Hess. Ahem. Ellis clears his throat. It sounds like we have a mystery. Luke, you said that you were watching her and she didn't get out of your sight. But John, you said she showed up on the Thursday morning. Are you saying Fee walked before the 28th? Ellis asks. Can't be. Nobody walks before the 28th day. That's ridiculous, says TK. John replies, I don't know. Is it? Look, I'm not saying she did, but think about it. She got past Luke, shows up on my doorstep, gives me all this information, and then she's gone. And to top it off, has no recollection of it. That's a humdinger, says Gray. Phoenix addresses the situation unfolding before her. Hey, I'm right here. Everyone can talk to me instead of about me like I'm not in the room. We're sorry, Fee. It's just that you don't remember much of anything and none of us knows why, including you, says John. So what do we know about all of this? Strangeness, asks Ellis. I don't know, but while we're on the subject of the peculiar, I saw something last night that should have been impossible. Luke was able to find Fee when I couldn't. Well, I was having a hard time anyway, says Hess. Phoenix turns to Luke and asks, How did you do that? When I closed my eyes, I saw you, sitting there, you looked at me. The others congregate in an adjoining room and begin to speak of Luke's strange behavior. They attempt to figure out what it means and how it could potentially affect them all. He really freaked me out. It was like something was guiding him, says Hess. John confirms, I've never seen Luke like that before. TK remarks, so Luke's Omni now, is that what you're saying? I'm not saying anything yet, but something strange is happening, and we better find out what it is, because I have a feeling Edgar already knows, replies John. How would he know? Asks Gray. Because maybe something is happening with him too, Ellis says. If not him, one of his pals. Either way, I've never seen him this relentless before, adds John. TK, who's been slowly pacing back and forth the entire time, approaches Hess. And a question for you. How'd they manage to get to Princess Peach anyway? Hesitant to answer her question, he takes a beat, glances at Ellis and John, and then replies, My best guess. One of Edgar's goons followed us after the fight at the freighter. Slipped in as one of us and... Bob's your uncle, shouts Gray. Yeah, I guess after that it wasn't too hard to get her out, says Hess. Because that's what she needed, a hit over the head. God, says TK. Will you get off my case? You've been giving me grief since I got here, Phoenix says while crossing the room. Because I don't like risking my life for someone who withholds crucial information that could get us all killed and prances around like they don't have a care in the world. That's enough, TK, snaps Luke. No, that's all right. Because if she thinks I would risk any of you getting hurt or killed, then I'm positive I don't like her any better when I do remember who she is. TK rolls her eyes and walks away. John, who's been quietly watching, says, "You're very perceptive. You don't like her any better. However, all that aside, I know each and every one of us, when it gets down to it, would die for the other. But we don't really want to be faced with that, so let's see if we can get to the bottom of this." They agree to make a greater effort to put aside their differences and move forward. "Fee, this business about you showing up at John's on the 27th, do you remember anything leading up to that night? Anything at all?" asks Ellis. "No, only that I hadn't been sleeping well and I'd been waking up really tired like I'd been running track all night. The thing that's screwing with me the most is how I could carry on day in day out, with no recollection of you all and not notice. It's like I'm living in the now, and anything before last night is erased. I say we retrace your steps back to the last time we saw you. That's the only way we're going to find out what happened," Ellis says. "That's right. It's the only way we can come up with some answers," says John. TK asks, "How do we do that?" The room falls silent until Gray blurts, "Let Hess do it." Hess, who's been sitting quietly, staring at patterns on the carpet, raises his head in response to the suggestion. "What?" he asks. "Yeah, mate, you should be able to tell us your Omni. That's got to be good for tooling about in Fee's head," he adds. "That's right. You can get in there," TK says enthusiastically. "You mean more than a silent hello?" No. I don't know what's lurking around in there. No offense, Fee, but I don't like this idea. You're talking about deep mental integration. That's some Vulcan mind meld type stuff, man. If she wigs out, I'm screwed. You guys are gonna have to think of something else. I like my life. I'd like to be able to remember it," he says. Luke, visibly bothered by Hess's response, says, "You're not the only one who would like to be able to recall the last 20 years. Hess sighs and looks around the room, observing their expressions of lost hope. He takes a moment, then exhales, "Ugh!" and swishes his hands back and forth through his hair as if to shake out bad humours. "Fine. Okay. I'll do it. You know I love you, Fee. It's just, this thing could go badly for the both of us. Now we're cracking with petrol. Can you not feel the love in this room?" Gray says. "Now we're doing what?" TK asks with a frown. Phoenix hugs Hess, whispering, "We'll be okay," while Luke breathes a sigh of relief and shakes his hand. "We don't have much time. We better get this show on the road," says Ellis. Phoenix pulls Luke aside. "I need to talk to you." She takes his hand and leads him away. Once alone, she says, "I want to apologize beforehand for any adverse reaction I may suffer because of what we're about to do." "You don't have to. It'll be all right. I know it will," he says, pulling her close. They stand, lingering in each other's arms. John knocks on the door. "You ready?" he asks. "Yeah," she responds hesitantly. "Okay then, let's get this over with," he says, and they move to the lobby where Hess is waiting, visibly nervous, not at all confident in his decision to undertake the task at hand. "Before we get started, I want to say something," says John. They give their full attention and await his guidance and words of wisdom. "Listen, I know we all hope that this will bring about the answers we need, but if something goes wrong, there are two possible outcomes. First, Hess may be left with the same affliction. Second, Fee's mind could slip further away and cause her to lose her new memories and the possibility of ever recovering her past. So I don't know if you guys are the praying type, but send up some nice words for the both of them." With that being said, they darken the room and sit in the middle of the floor. Complete silence and strict concentration enables their thoughts to flow freely about. They try empty their minds of all events, but with everyone in the room it's impossible to focus. Their endless thoughts are deafeningly loud. I'm sorry, guys. You have to leave. I hear a million voices and none of them are fees. Hess declares abruptly. So, if you all don't mind, and even if you do, I need you guys to get out. He continues. Now alone, they concentrate on nothing, only blackness. Phoenix's mind starts to drift into a blissful realm. Not asleep, yet not fully conscious. Simply being. She can see Hess standing before her with her mind's eye. He's saying something, but she can't hear him and his mouth fades away. A faint sound of voices stream in, several at a time jumbled together. Someone crying, someone singing happy birthday, another repeating the words I love you over and over. Eventually, the voices begin to leave one by one, until the only voice left is a woman calling her name. It's vaguely familiar. Old hazy footage begins to play out. The sound is out of sync, but it's a match. The images fade in and out. A man comes into view, but his face is obscured. His voice is unfamiliar and hostile. She can't make out what he's saying. She looks away, and Hess is pointing at her and running towards something in the distance, telling her to follow. Come on, he says as he runs ahead. To reach him, she'll have to move quickly. On her way, she eyes another person on the horizon. He also motions for her to hurry. She begins to run, but every stride seems to place her further away. She keeps going, anxious to see what they want to show her. As she makes her way up a massive gravel heap, she loses her footing and slips into a borehole. Her head barely above ground, her hands clutching the edge. She pushes herself forward and claws at the dirt, trying to get free, when a hand grabs hold of hers and begins to pull her out. It's Hess, but without warning he loses his balance, and the earth beneath his feet gives way. Hess stumbles forward, causing Phoenix to fall backward. Laughter echoes through the air as they tumble downward. But a sudden jerk stops their descent. She peeks her head around his shoulder. "Luke!" she exclaims. He's got Hess by the back of his shirt. He rears back and pulls them free, and they emerge and embrace. Once more the sound of laughter fills the air. Though unnerved, they forge ahead. Hess grabs Phoenix by the hand and says, "Come on, you've got to see this, you'll love it." He pulls her toward a tree on the horizon. As they approach, he slows and puts his arm out saying, "Watch out," and points downward. They're on the edge of a cliff, likened to standing at the edge of the world. Hess lets go of her hand and lies on the ground looking down into the void. Luke comes up from behind and rests his head on her shoulder. They look out at the lights of the world below when he takes her by the hand and says, "That's not all." They lie on the ground next to Hess and look over the edge. No lights are visible, only whiteness like a movie screen. Voices and images begin to come into focus. It's an image of a baby and a woman. It's Phoenix and her mother. Hess and Luke look at her and smile. "Remember," says Hess. The footage continues as she watches. She slowly begins to remember each scene from her childhood. There's a family seeded throughout her past. From Luke's reaction, she knows it's his family. Observing the scene, they witness 10-year-old Phoenix eating in the school lunchroom. "Want to hear a joke?" she hears a voice ask. It's Luke from his classroom. Startled by his abrupt telepathic intrusion, she reacts with a dramatic flinch, disturbing the girl sitting beside her. "What's your problem?" she asks, and after a pause snidely adds, "Weirdo?" Phoenix doesn't respond. She listens to Luke's joke. When he drops the punchline, she bursts into laughter, spraying milk onto the unsuspecting girl. A fight ensues. Afterwards, she's unable to explain, which leads to a suspension from school. Her memories play on. She looks past Luke to see Hess, who's quite engrossed. Without his help, she would have no recollection of her past. He's a true friend, and she loves him for that. Luke taps her on the arm, saying, "Remember this?" At the end of a cul-de-sac, there's a snug house surrounded by falling snow, radiating a cozy and warm ambience. Inside, a now 15-year-old Phoenix inspects her clothing in the mirror.
"Fee!"
her mother calls out. Summoning her into the room, when she arrives, Luke hands her a drink and motions for her to raise it alongside his. She turns to see her mother accepting a ring from a gentleman rested on one knee. "I remember that night," she says with a smile. The scene changes, revealing a group of kids in a spirited snowball fight on the street. A total free-for-all. Caught in a barrage of snowballs, Luke and Phoenix make a run for cover, seeking refuge beneath the minivan parked in Mr. Wyndham's driveway. As they lie there waiting out the intense snowball warfare, an uncomfortable silence settles in. "My fingers are freezing," she remarks. He takes her hand, warming it between his own. In that moment, they find themselves lost in a gaze, staring at each other until Michael Ramsey, the block captain of pranks, shouts, "They're over here! Get 'em!" The image begins to flutter before flashing a scene of Phoenix in a hospital bed, then transitions into her walking from her house, loading boxes onto a moving truck. "Where's my mother?" she asks under her breath, when suddenly a piercing noise begins to ring out all around them. It's not a memory, it's real. "What on earth is that?" she yells over the racket.
"No clue!"
shouts Hess. Luke scans their surroundings and says,
"Sounds like an alarm!"
Suddenly, the sky turns a dismal pink, and the face of a man seems to mock them with laughter. "We have to get out of here," shouts Phoenix. "Come on," says Hess, and they sprint back to their starting point. They arrive to find complete desolation. "Hold on, how did you get here?" asks a bewildered Luke. "I'm here on a memory rescue mission for Fee, remember?" replies Hess. "Wait, how did you get here, Luke?" asks Phoenix. "I was already here," he responds. "What are you talking about? You weren't in the room with us," she counters. "Oh no, something's wrong. I was so glad you saved us that I didn't think to ask why you were here." "What's going on out there, Luke?" asks Hess. Luke struggles to remember, saying, "I don't know how I could have forgotten. It's just, everything seemed so real again. It was so nice to look back." "Well, there's no time for that now. We need an exit strategy pronto," says Hess, with urgency in his voice. Phoenix, ever observant, points to the sky. "Look at that!" Above them, a surreal scene unfolds. It's Phoenix in her car. A mysterious woman emerges from the back seat, jabbing her in the neck with a syringe. She slumps over and everything fades to black. When the darkness lifts, Phoenix finds herself at home, lying paralyzed on the kitchen floor. The man, Edgar, is speaking to her, but his words are incoherent to them. They're captivated by the unfolding drama. It seems something is gripping their minds, refusing to let go. The previous scenes begin to rewind before their eyes, but this time there's more, and they're being taken back to the very beginning of her life.